Hello, gorgeous. It's me, Coach K, and I am super excited to bring you the August edition of Q&A with Coach K. Over the last couple of days, I have asked you to send me your questions, and I'm going to answer them openly and honestly. I am live right now on my regular profile as well as in the Plot Twist community group. So, hello to each of you. As you file in, please like hashtag live or replay. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're watching in the Plot Twist, hashtag Plot Twist so that I'll know that you're there. I just really want to pour into you guys tonight, and I want to thank you for trusting me with your questions and for asking me. All right, so we're gonna hop right into it because boy, when I said ask me questions, y'all were not shy. So we're gonna start with the light stuff and then go into the deeper, more like really good, deep questions that everybody needs to know. Okay. So the first question that I was asked was from my stories. And this person asked, what is my favorite movie of all time? And it would have to be Dreamgirls. And I know that's kind of tongue in cheek, but it is the story of someone literally chasing their dreams, losing friendships, going through the ups and downs and hardships of living the iconic life that they wanted to live. I love it. It also features Jamie Foxx, who is hands down, even before all of this stuff popped off recently, my favorite actor of all time. He is multifaceted. I love it. He sings, he acts, he does impersonations. Like he's a comedian. Like Jamie Foxx is the GOAT. So hands down, Dreamgirls is my favorite movie. Number two, the question was courthouse or big wedding. And this made me laugh because my closest friends know that I am totally a courthouse girl. My best friend works with me and I tell her all the time, like, you're not going to know. I'm literally going to be like, hey, let's go to lunch. Oh, by the way, I'm getting married right now and I need you to sign. So definitely courthouse wedding, which leads to question number three, which is why won't you call me? Because I have a boyfriend. There's nothing personal with you. I have a boyfriend. I'm extremely happy. If you've noticed on my content, I don't share a lot about my relationship or my kids. Those things are sacred to me. And so I keep them really close to my chest. If people ask one-on-one, I probably talk about it, but those are just some areas of my life that I kind of shield because they're so important to me. Got it? Cool. All right, so let's dive into the other stuff. So, first question is, what is your best advice for improving emotional intelligence? Your best advice for improving emotional intelligence. And I would say that first things first, you have to identify the feelings that you're having. You have to acknowledge that they're even there, right? And then, secondly, once we identify them, we have to get to like, why are we having this feeling? Like, is this rooted in something that's happening right now, or it's something that we suppressed from the past and we have not been able to work through? Once you recognize what the emotions are, I recommend that people develop an emotional management plan. And that's going to go live tomorrow for the public, where you have the opportunity to sit down with me, identify tough emotions, and work through those emotions and develop strategies for what we do with them when they come up. So I'm super excited about that. We'll talk a little bit more about it at the end. But that's my best advice for building emotional intelligence is identifying that you have the problem and like where is it coming from and what's the plan to manage it. And what I have learned through my own emotional mastery and emotional intelligence building is when you're aware of your emotions, it makes you more aware of the emotions of other people and you treat them with more empathy and a little bit more delicately, or you're willing to cut them off when you recognize toxic behavior because you don't want to be involved in it. Okay. So that is my best advice for that. The next question was, why would you hire a life coach? Like, why would you need a life coach? And I'm going to, if Tracy doesn't mind, partner that with when might someone use the tools that you offer. So, a life coach would be very useful for someone who is going through a transition in their life. Like, I'm the queen of fresh starts, or someone who's having difficulty navigating a tough issue in their life and they're just looking for an unbiased ear. If you're like me, then your family is totally enmeshed and they're always going to give you advice based upon what they would do and what they want for you, right? And so they'll say, oh, well, you do what you want to do. But if it were me, and a life coach isn't going to do that for you. A life coach is going to be like, okay, let's sit out all the options and together we will choose what's the best option or best route for you. We can weigh the pros and cons of many decisions, right? A life coach might also be able to help you to execute a goal. Like lots of times people have this big, huge goal that they want to get to long term, but a life coach can help you to develop a strategy to get to those goals and identify things that might be holding you back. I like the part about being a life coach that it's kind of unbiased, where I just kind of ask questions that are thought provoking. It's not meant to throw you off your game as much as to make you kind of reflect over what you're doing. And is this the best decision? Is what I'm doing creating the life that I dream of? Right. So that's why you might choose a life coach. Personally, I feel like everybody needs an unbiased ear or someone to talk things over with. That's not your sister, your cousin, your spouse. Because again, those people are always going to have your best interest in heart, but it's going to be very weighted or tinted by what they want for you, not necessarily what's best for you or what you want for yourself. Okay. What was the next question? And if you have questions, guys, please drop them down below. I'm looking over here so that I can see your comments as they come in. Hello, Linda Kay. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. All right. The next question is great question. What's the difference between a life coach and a therapist? And I think this is extremely important because I don't know that a lot of people know the difference. So a therapist is someone who went to school for an extremely long period. They have a license, they sit in front of a board, and there's a whole code of ethics, and they work with you on issues that are rooted in your past and trauma and your childhood, or if you're experiencing any level of like mental health stuff. It's a clinical position, okay? Very, very clinical. There is it's regulated very heavily what a therapist can do for you. And I do not take that for granted. A life coach, on the other hand, is going to be someone who is their expertise typically comes from being from the school of hard knocks, and they have their expertise through experience. So they lived it. Now, there are tons of coaching programs like the one that I went through that absolutely give you strategies and techniques to aid you in assisting someone through difficult transitions. Okay. But not all life coaches have a mental health background like I do. And then when I say that, I think of really big ones that most people would know, like Tony Robbins, like Mel Robbins, like Jay Shetty, like Iyanla Vanzant. None of them have a mental health per se background. They've just went through lots of different experiences and they know a lot about life, right? So they're not clinically, they're not equally weighted, but both could be beneficial if you need them. The other coach that comes to my mind is Brene Brown. And I mention her because, like me, all of her degrees are in social work. So her background comes from social services. So I hope that helps you understand. Therapist is going to work with what happened to you that made like this the issue. A life coach says, I'm sorry that happened to you. How the heck do we move forward? So I hope that kind of brings things into balance. And if you want to reach out to me, we can talk more about that one-on-one. I hope that gave you some insight. Next question. I don't see anything in the comments is, how do you know when you're going through something that is brief or when you really need to make a personal change? Excellent question, Tracy. So I think it's important to note that as humans, everyone is going to go through struggles. Everyone's going to have ups and downs and periods where they feel out of alignment or just off. However, when you notice that there is some level of consistent unhappiness or uneasiness, or when you're consistently experiencing conflict with the people that you love and you're the common denominator, it's time to kind of reflect and say, do I need to make a change? And so what I say is, are you only having this problem at work? Oh no, you're also having it at home with your spouse, or you're having issues in the community with your friends, or you're having issues with your siblings. Like, when you recognize that these behaviors are showing up in multiple places and you're the only one who's in all those multiple places, that's when we need to tap in and make a personal change. I also want to caveat that with, every single one of us could develop in some way. Like, even though I am on a personal growth journey and I've gotten so far, there's not a day that goes by that I don't invest in myself by like listening to some sort of personal growth podcast or reading books or I'm constantly working on myself. We're all a work in progress. So I never want you to think that you've arrived. There's always room for improvement. Okay. Hey sis, how are you? Very good information. Thank you so much. Next question is, What made you start helping others to manage their emotions? And I tied that with what do you love most about what you do? So I feel like every single one of us has a purpose, and we navigate life and we try to figure out what that purpose is. And so I've come to the conclusion that my purpose is to love, lead, and inspire other women. And I've always, from a very early age, had this desire to encourage people and to lead by example. And so by becoming a life coach, I literally get to see the transformation in people. I get to see them become more aware of themselves. I get to see them experience and identify joy in their life. I get to see them become more assertive, all of the things. And so I love the light bulb that goes off when they're like, oh my goodness, I never thought of it that way. It just sets my soul on fire, literally, to see people making positive changes to create the life that they want. Far too often, we settle for the life because we're afraid to like try a little bit harder. We're afraid of failure. And so I love what I do because it just it's such a big deal. Like it's literally life changing. Like I always said, I want to change the world. When I am coaching someone, I may not be changing the world on a grand scheme, but I'm changing the world for that person. So I love that. And what made me want to help people manage their emotions is when I realized that I had an emotional management problem and I started working on my emotions, I recognized how every aspect of my life got upgraded. My relationships, my career, my relationships with my family, my relationships with my kids, everything was up leveled when I learned to master my emotions. And I'm like, everyone needs this. And so that's why I do what I do now. We answered that. What might someone use the tools you offer with in certain situations? Um, I was talking to the girls in the inner circle that I'm a part of earlier this week about how when you experience an emotion, your response to it's going to be different based upon where you are. So if you're at work, you're going to have one reaction. If you're at home, you're going to have one. If you're healthy, you're going to have one reaction at home, another reaction in the grocery store, in traffic, another reaction. And so the skills that I teach can help you to manage yourself and to remain in control of your emotions and what your reactions, no matter where you are. So that is why it's so beneficial. Okay. Um, Next question is, how do you get the courage to go back to school for a master's? And I love this question because lots of people do not know that there are 10 years between my bachelor's and my master's degree. And that is because the first time that I applied to grad school, I did not get in. And it kind of was like a kick in the stomach. It's the first time that I'd ever not gotten picked. I was like, what? And so there was a delay and there was hesitancy in me trying again. But something I say to my clients very frequently now is, what is more terrifying? The idea of standing still and remaining where you are, the idea of never ever attaining your goal, never ever reaching your dreams, or the idea of trying and failing. Like if you fail, at least you can say I tried it, right? At least you can say I gave it a good go. But if you don't try, then you live with regret. And so discipline, weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. So you have to decide, like, what are you going to live with? Choose your hard. It's hard to stay where you are and it's hard to launch into something else. Choose your hard. And as for me, I'm launching into the next thing. And if it doesn't work out, at least I'll land somewhere else and I may even change my goal. So I hope that that was helpful. How do you focus on one career goal at a time? And in this particular question, Sam says, I love my arts and craft business, but I kind of want to be a therapist. And this made me smile because I totally don't. I don't focus on necessarily one career goal at a time. And I say this, if you are interested in a master's and you're interested in being a therapist and that is your goal and you feel like that is how you're going to change the world, absolutely go for it. And I think there is a period where you get to be laser focused on that goal and making changes and making things happen and you anchor down. But becoming laser focused on a goal and so obsessed with obtaining it does not mean that there's no room for you and your passion and for fun. And so, me as a really busy girl, because I love to sing, I love to dance, I love all of these things, I schedule in time for making sure I can go home so that I can sing. I schedule in that time so that I can hang out with my boyfriend. I schedule in that time so that I can take my kids bowling. I make sure that no matter what the long-term goal is, I schedule in time for fun. I schedule in time for me. My coach says frequently all the time, go live your life. So make sure that in the process of making a living, you forget to have a life. Don't make sure you don't forget to have a life. Okay. So that is my best advice for that. Do not lose your passion. You can totally do that on the side. And then the last question that I had is, how do I stop taking out my anger on my husband? And this is really, really good. Good question. Okay. So I don't know if you guys recognize this, but we tend to take out our anger and have the worst emotional reactions and behavior with people who are safe, people who are closest to us. You pop off on your best friend, on your husband or your wife, on your sister. You do not pop off on your coworker or your boss. You don't. Why? Because you're fearful of the consequence or the repercussion of doing that. So you know that this person is safe. So you feel free to be all willy-nilly, just, doing your own thing. So as great as that is, when you recognize that these relationships are important to you and you recognize that that's a factor, it is so important that we honor those relationships and we take care of them. And so being emotionally aware, like having that emotional management plan, be emotionally aware means that you recognize, you know what, I probably need to not discuss this tonight. I need to dial it back tonight. He's crunching this ice in my ear and it's driving me absolutely bananas, but I don't have to comment on that because I'm looking for a reason to have an altercation so I can discharge tension. And I said, I guess maybe 3 or 4 lives ago, when you have anger built up, typically you have to do something physical to discharge that tension. So maybe you need to take a walk before you get into the driveway, walk your dogs, do this or that. Maybe you need to dance, close the bedroom door, dance crazy to your favorite music. We talk about that a little bit in the plan. Like, come up with a strategy to discharge some of that tension. For my boyfriend and I, when we are irritated with one another or upset with one another, we have a code word. He's a sports fanatic, so it's flag on the play. Like if we're having a conversation, it's getting tension or heated, either one of us can call flag on the play. And that means we pause. Just like in a sporting event, when there is a pause, flag on the play, we're going to review the tape. Hey, can we just pause right now? Because the things that we are saying to each other are not respectful. It's not being said out of love. We need to check ourselves. And when you take that opportunity, I truly believe that you need to have a time to regroup. So we're going to take 30 minutes. We're going to take an hour. Hey, can we rediscuss this tomorrow? And you create a time where you're going to come back, and it gives you time to make sure you're being respectful of one another, but even to make sure you're being respectful to yourself. Because often when you say things that you don't mean, there's all this remorse. And so even via text message, one of us will throw a flag meaning, hey, stop. And honoring one another enough and honoring yourself enough that when you see the flag or you hear that, to just stop. And y'all can pick any word in the world. That's just what works for us. Hopefully that strategy helps you a whole lot. When I talk about words, and this may seem very pediatric, but when I talk about words, I know that you're like, well, I was angry. That's not an excuse. I tell my kids that it's like toothpaste. You can squirt all of the toothpaste out of the tube, but try as you might, you can't get it back in there. And so you can explode and say all these horrible things to the people that you love, and you can apologize, but try as you might, you can't take back the words that you said or how you made them feel when you said them. Okay. So just be very mindful of that. So those are the questions that I received in my DMs. Do you guys have any questions while we're live? Tell me. No? Okay. So last week in the Plot Twist community group, I did Woo-Saw, the 6-step blueprint for managing your emotions. And I gave a 6-step strategy for teaching you how to manage your emotions. And the emotional management plan is something that I'm going to release to the public starting tomorrow. So if you're interested in sitting down with me for a 30-minute session, drop plan below, and we will literally walk through your toughest emotions, and we will develop strategies for managing those emotions together. So one of the things, especially as women, that we are charged with is we are emotional. We are feelers. And that's not a bad thing. It's our innate design. That's what makes us great mothers and great partners and great friends, is because we care. But when those things are not, when they're not tamed, when they're not kind of rounded out and it's rough around the edges, we end up spewing on people and hurting people with our words and our reactions, and we're reactive, right? And so when we develop an emotional management plan, we plan for situations that might make us angry or fearful or anxious or sad. And when you have a strategy, even if it's not this happened at this day and I know to do this, you have enough what context clues for things that you might do. Okay. So I'm really interested in sharing that with you guys. It will go live probably tomorrow at noon. You'll have the opportunity to purchase that with me or to sit down in the session. It's a guide, so you could totally do it alone. However, I strongly encourage you to book the call so that I can ask you certain questions to make you think further into the strategies that you are developing for yourself. I've had so much fun tonight. This has been like super dope. Let me know down below if you love Q&As, if you want me to keep doing these each month, or if you have any questions that I did not get to tonight. I think I got to all of them that I was received. If you had questions and you're nervous, you can send a message to my DMs. If it's a really good one, I will totally go live in the very near future because I'm live all the time and discuss it, or I will shoot you a message back and give you an answer to your question. I love you guys. I love kicking it with you guys. If you're not already, hop over in the Plot Twist community group so that you can hang out with me every day. And we, girl, we'll chat in the next one.